Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Tape Deck Media.
I'm Chris Chapman.
And I'm Aaron Frescas.
I'm Joseph Beck Castro.
Cool. And together, we produce a comedy podcast about the films of Arnold Schwarzenegger called See You at the Potty, Richter.
See you at the potty, Richter. Like that. You need to say it with the accent.
Yeah, come on. Don't you know accents?
That's not Arnold Schwarzenegger accent. This is a Schwarzenegger accent.
It's an accent, sure. Anyway, listen each month as we take you through Arnold's career, one movie at a time. For each movie, we'll explain the plot, discover some fascinating trivia about its production and promotion, and rate the film on its quintessential Arnoldness.
That's what we do. I mean, that's what we do.
Joe's accent is a lot better than my accent.
We know you have a lot of choices in the comedy deep dive into the filmography of the world's most charismatic bodybuilder genre of podcasts, but please consider giving us a shot.
Come on, do it now. Do it. Subscribe.
I made the mistake of sitting down for an in-person interview and didn't hit record kind of recently. That's probably got to be one of the most soul-destroying experiences ever, eh? Okay, so let's see if I can get your name right twice in a row. Anya Rzhevitskaya, welcome to the podcast. Delightful to finally have you on.
Thank you. Thank you, Taylor.
No, it's my pleasure. We sort of did like a pre-interview, I guess, a while back when we first sort of got in touch, and here's the full pod. So let's just start straight into it. So I've said this to you personally, but I just want to go on record to say I think your production company has some of the coolest branding in stand-up comedy in New Zealand. Just to make sure I've got it around the right way. Drug of Choice is the company, and Dope As Comedy is the show that you run. Is that right?
Yeah, Dope As Sunday Comedy is Sunday shows on every first Sunday of the month at Fringe Bar here in Welly. And then we also have 3 Minutes in Hell, which is actually won an award last year. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's fun. I doodle the stuff, and then we use professional photographers to take pictures of us.
Yeah, if you're listening out there, go and look. I'll link it into the show notes, but go and look at Drug of Choice, because there's this fantastic photo shoot where it's you and I'm sorry, I'm spacing on your partner's name. What is he called? Daniel?
My comedy partner is Daniel John Smith. Yep.
Daniel John Smith. So you're both wearing he's got a fur coat on, and they're almost like paparazzi photos as you're like.
It is.
Yeah.
The idea was paparazzi, and my ex-boyfriend actually took them because it was his idea, which was fantastic, and it really suited us.
Absolutely. Were they clothes that you already owned for the shoot, or did you go out and look for them specifically?
Some of them, belong to us, and then Daniel's partner Vicky, she's like a burlesque performer. She has a whole wardrobe, and she's always helping us out with that. Yeah,
I love it. It makes a big difference, doesn't it, having good costume? Like I always feel like that's the one thing I need to do better with my comedy photo shoots is get like an interesting coat or something. So yeah.
Black shirt is always,
it's very standard stand-up. Yeah. How did you come by, or how did you decide on the name Drug of Choice?
Oh, that came ages ago, way before we kind of made it official. When I did maybe my first show in the New Zealand Comedy Fest, I knew that we needed a production name, so I thought of Drug of Choice. And then for a few years, I used it for for my whatever little shows that I did here and there. And then when Daniel finally came back from Edinburgh, because he lived there for a few years, came back, I was like, hey, it seemed like it would be fun to run it together because we've always been best mates. So it's been 6 years now. And I was just telling my friends, it was really good before COVID. We were like legit selling out full 100 people shows.
Wow.
I have records, and it's really sad to look at them right now. And then after COVID, it just all went down. We're still trying, because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It sounds like the entire comedy industry is in a bit of a slump at the moment. I've heard that even the comedy festival this year, they were only moving, I don't know, 50 or 60% of the tickets. Don't quote me on that. I just remember I have friends telling me that it was tough going out there as well. So if it's tough for them, I don't feel quite so bad about being tough for smaller producers like us.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
how did the name Dope As Comedy, was that like a Dope As?
We just sit and think about it. We just thought Dope is a good name.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, just Daniel and I go through stuff. At some point we had Epic. Oh, what was it? A very long name for a game show we ran. Like super duper extreme epic dope something. We're running a new show with my friend Emma Jean. It's going to be called, oh my God, I'm forgetting, but the idea is that comedians are going to get tattooed while doing a set.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be called Permanent Record, Comedians Getting Tattooed While Sitting Down While Doing Stand-Up in a Sterile Environment. So the longer the better,
I was thinking that if I ever got a tattoo, I would have to podcast the experience, because you're basically stuck there for several hours, right? And I don't know whether that's whether trying to commercialize the experience is cheapening it, or whether it would actually be an interesting thing for people to listen to. So I might still do it. I don't know. I don't have any tattoos now. You're quite heavily inked, aren't you?
Oh, I would never. But yeah, no, I'm doing like half a bodysuit. So I'm working on my leg. I really want to have like fully half body done, and my arm is done, and it's going down now, and it's all Star Wars.
Yeah, I was going to say it looked Star Wars from. I just watched the promo for. Is it called Kick Up a Fuss? I know I wrote it in the chat before.
Yes, yeah. Kick Up a Fuss is another thing I run.
So that's more of a pole show, is it?
It's a strip club, an ethical strip club takeover. So A few years ago, a bunch of strippers got fired for basically unionizing and asking for fair work environment, I suppose, and just been ignored and kicked out. So we've been running these shows for a few years. My friend and I just became like the event managers for that, and I MC for them. But it's a strip club at a place wherever we hire it. This time it's a secret location, so I can't tell.
Very cool.
But it's where all the dancers get 100% of the money that they deserve, because clubs take up to 60%.
Wow.
Which is insane. So yeah, this is just a ethically fair sort of situation. Plus, I know that a lot of people don't want to support strip clubs because of this unfair stuff.
Right.
But they do want to support the people who actually work, because it's a dope industry and it's for workers' rights. So that's the next one.
I don't know. So if you go to like I don't know, Calendar Girls is the big chain one here. Yeah. You give them like Calendar Girls money, I think. I've only been a long time ago. And so that gets they pick that all up, and then a cut, like the club has a taste before they leave it.
Yeah, so some clubs take the cut from the whole night that you make. Some take like 20% from the tips and 40% from lap dancers and dancers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's super unfair, and it's very unregulated, and that's what
that's astronomically high. Because I remember years ago I heard someone was taking 10% as a comedy producer, and people were like, "What the hell?" 40 to 60% is brutal.
Yeah, literally, while Bossman is sitting upstairs watching the cameras, while all the jobs and everything is being done. Plus unfair, there's firings. I'm currently suspended for 2 weeks from a club I'm working at.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it.
We don't have to get into that at all.
I'm struggling with the whole idea of like, I know how it can work, and then this is how it actually works. It's bothering me. Plus, I was fired like a few years ago also for unionizing. Yeah. That's why I'm part of it.
Well, I guess the main thing is, and we've sort of spoken about this off podcast as well, but the reason that both of us kind of started our production companies is because we didn't like the way things were happening in the kind of greater scene. So, I mean, at least you can, you're being the change that you want to see in the world with this Kick Up a Fuss. I'm guessing is FUS, is that a acronym for something?
Fired Up Stilettos.
Ah, is that the name of the group?
Yeah, that's I suppose I would call us a union, but I don't know if legally we are considered a union yet. But we are a charitable organization that helps out strippers and sex workers that are in trouble or get in trouble. Like they helped out me now that I got suspended, because Well, things happen.
Things happen.
I'm banned from so many places, like strip clubs, because of this. So I struggle to, follow the rules of the man that never danced in heels before, so it's...
Is that you just choose other types of shoes, or do you go barefoot?
No. As in the owner has never tried.
Oh, the owner has no, yeah. Yes. You'd think, that should be something. I think we should get all owners to, they've got to, put in a shift. Like if you've worked in like food hospitality, you sort of, you develop a cynicism and a little bit of an empathy for the sort of human condition. I feel like maybe we should get the club owners up there for a shift and see how they like it.
Yeah, no, I think they used to do it in Undercover Boss or something like that.
Brilliant. So when is that one coming up? I think this episode's going to drop on, what day will it be? It will be, once my calendar loads, the 2nd of June, I think is when you should be listening to this, faithful listener. When is Kick Up With Us?
12th of July. So it's like a while away. Yeah.
You got a bit of time
We're just finishing selling like the early bird. So we have plenty of time. There's going to be stuff in the newspaper because like regional news, we're so happy to support the cause. Everybody's super supportive, and we might have some politicians stop by, from the party that supports us, hopefully.
Do you know the weirdest thing about me doing those sort of political reels is I've got actual standing politicians following me on Instagram now, and I'm just like, what is this? Like, how small is this country? They are like, oh yeah, we'll follow this comedian. Mad. So let's chat a little bit. You said when we were kind of talking about setting this up, you said you might have some kind of stories from Russia, but you sort of weren't exactly sure where to start. So I might just start asking some questions about Russia, and we'll see where that leads. All right. Is that all right?
Before you start, last time I was in Russia, I was 23 years old. Now I'm 34, 35 this year. So it was a while ago. Yeah. So I don't really know about like the iron wall that we built recently.
Don't worry. I wasn't going to ask you for your foreign policy on that. I just sort of, it's one of those. It's one of those. I should also go on record as to say I think the reason they went to war was bullshit, and it's very obvious as to why they're actually invading the Ukraine. But I was going to say, Russia is such a fascinating country to, I think, Americans, because America and Russia, I feel like we're almost like mirror images of each other in, that kind of. God, when was the Cold War? It was after World War II, wasn't it? But they're massive countries. Are Russians considered white, or are they like something else?
Yeah, no, I'd say we're white. Yeah, for sure. But speaking of the comparing, when Daniel and we invented a few games to like in comedy to ease the audience in, right? And one of the games was Russia versus Florida. where we would find stories like headlines from Florida, Florida man fights a crocodile. Yes,
absolutely.
And same with Russia, and kind of read them out and make the audience guess if it's Florida or Russia. And they were always incorrect. Like,
I love it.
It's so similar. And then since the recent development in the world, it's Russia versus America, dictatorship. It's potato. It's really no difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that was, to me anyways, is there is a sort of mystique about Russia that we don't know what it's like for the average person living there, because like, especially in the Cold War, there's so much propaganda about like, communism was like, they used to say better dead than red and all this kind of thing. So I'm just I'm curious about what it's like from someone that's actually grown up there.
I'm a socialist, but don't tell my parents.
They won't be listening to this, I assume.
They've lived there during USSR and everything, and they say it was shit. But when I talk about it, I don't believe that we would go back and past. We have internet access. We have so many new things, even though the history is still repeating itself.
Yeah. I suppose it's also tricky as well, because you don't necessarily have an alternate childhood to compare it to.
Well, I had a spoiled mafia dad kind of childhood. I traveled all over the world, and this is why I speak English like this, So I can't really complain about that, because like it hit the 90s when USSR stopped existing. I think it was like 91, 93. And everybody was just kind of, to own the business, you just kill the owner of the business. It was kind of it was just all over the place, you know.
Right,
People
right.
were just taking. There was a lot of bribes. There's still a lot of bribes and stuff. But
Right.
something I want to bring up that I don't think a lot of people understand often, because I talk to a lot of Kiwis about being Russian, is that it's illegal to be gay. You cannot be queer. You cannot. Everybody's like, Putin is a dictator, and I'm like, do you think he's like pro-queer people
Right.
then? If
Right.
he's a dictator. And I think it's important to mention because a lot of people don't know that. But you can't even like be a propaganda for gay people if you're straight, because you just go straight. You don't exist, you know. I think that's important to mention. My parents were like, "Why don't you come back?" And I said, "There's going to be like a red flag on me, basically, at this point, with all my comedy and everything that I say, and support the people, you know, the queer communities, being a part of it." And they were like, "Oh, well, maybe you can go to America then, to your auntie."
Jeez.
And, yeah, right.
Is
and
it
I
any
was
better
like,
there?
well, there ain't no difference anymore. We're all going to Thailand because they just legalized marijuana there. Okay?
Right. Wow, interesting. I've heard that comedians are getting stopped at the border and they're getting questioned about like if you do routines about Trump, and that's really scary to think about, isn't it?
I know a few comedians in Russia that moved not just because they said something about Putin, but one fairly good comic said something about God, and people just call and go, "That's blasphemy," you know.
Right.
So like Orthodox Christianity is quite strict for some, I suppose.
Is this still quite a Christian country?
I don't know. Honestly,
I guess, yeah.
yes and no.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're doing religious wars though. We're doing wars for, you know, profit and whatnot. So.
Right. Yeah. I did have one other question about it. So you said the reason you speak English is because you've traveled quite a bit. Is it pretty uncommon that people will speak English there?
It's compulsory in school, but also I found out recently that you guys in New Zealand, well, we guys don't have. We have all the subjects compulsory, like all 15 subjects: biology, chemistry, geometry, etc., like history, social studies. That's all compulsory through all school, middle school, high school. Even in uni, we study 5 years, and the first 3 years usually cover everything, and then the last 2 you spend kind of pathing into what you want to specifically do.
Right.
So it's a bit different. There's a lot of, so yeah, it's compulsory, but it's the same way. Like, imagine if biology was compulsory, how much would you remember from high school if you didn't give a shit?
Yeah.
My parents knew that I won't be in Russia, I suppose. So yeah, I studied with like tutors, extra schools, and traveled and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And then moving here really helped.
Yeah, that was what I found as well. When I moved, I lived in Japan. I think I mentioned this to you, and couldn't really speak the language when I moved there. And then you do a bit of book learning and you try your best. But then the thing that really changed it was being in a classroom and like you're actually talking to people who literally don't speak English. So you can't default to, or you can't like sort of have that panic button of go back to
It's usually good. Yeah, it's usually good to have a second language just because I understand people who maybe struggle with English because it's their second language, but I struggled myself just like that. So I know what they're meaning.
Yeah.
I know what they're saying. So it's a bit easier for me.
Do you feel
everybody should have second language? Tereo is important to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I read somewhere there was a list of things that are like they're trashy if you're poor and bougie if you're rich, and it's speaking more than one language was one of those ones. Yeah. Do you feel like, I guess because it's your mother tongue, do you struggle with Russian ever, like being in New Zealand, or do you have a lot of opportunities to speak it?
Oh, I don't really. I whisper stuff to my boyfriend, but that's, you know, off the record, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
But
private.
I've read all the Russian books that were in the library at the time, and then they just ended up being recipes. I speak to my parents, and I don't know if it's okay to talk about drugs.
Yeah, of course, whatever you want.
Like, I love psychedelics so very much, mushrooms, acid, DMT, but I've never tried them when I was back home. I've never had a trip in my own language, like with other people who speak my own language. When I went to Bali with my Russian mates, we were supposed to do mushrooms, but they refused because I was weird, because I am for them. You know, for them, makes sense that I fucked off. You know,
it's such a specific reason not to do. No, you're weird. And it's like, well, we're about to do one of the weirdest things, I think.
They didn't like the questions I was asking as Russian men, you know. I was like, one guy I asked, have you ever had a finger up your butt? And he said, Jesus, wouldn't want that. Okay, seriously. And then the other guy, my bestie actually, he said that breaks my heart. He said that he will only let his future wife do that because signing a document in front of government and the God is very important before you start inserting things up your ass.
That's important to Jesus, I think. Yeah. But I mean, I guess that's at least progressive. It's like he's not ruling it out. It's still on the table, but it's just a very special lady has to do it.
Yeah. But with Russian language, with the second language, I recently smoked DMT with my friend. I do that quite often from time to time. And
I'll just stop you there. What is actually my only context of DMT is here, like sort of in Joe Rogan memes, like doing DMT and talking about apes or something. Is it a
it's like the molecule of death. It's in the pineal gland, and it's kind of in everything. And it's the most strongest psychedelic. I suppose if you ever like heard or did ayahuasca, it would be that trip that lasts a long time, but it's like 5 to 7 minutes.
Wow.
But it's quite a mind-blowing experience.
Yeah.
And I was doing it safely with my friend, and she was watching over me. And I realized that I can actually go into my Russian brain because it kind of swaps. And I started speaking Russian, and everything went very cold and very dark. And I was like, oh, how interesting. What a fucking piece of shithole, sort of thing.
Wow.
But yeah, I do speak it. I do try, and I do read in it. But the other day, I forgot. I was reading something about slaves, and I'm starting to read Dostoevsky, and I forgot what in Russia we used to call slaves. We used to call them souls. So how many souls do you have?
Wow.
120 souls on my property. Like, I'm trying to decide, like, it's a debate in my head. Is it better to be slaves or souls?
That
At
is
least you
interesting.
have a soul, I suppose.
Yeah. Case. At least you're then, because in America they used to refer to almost as like property, like it's not a person. But I wonder if that could just be a way to sort of, help yourself sleep at night. There, like no, they're not slaves; they're souls. They would tell me if they wanted to leave.
I respect them at least to call them souls. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally forgot about that, and I still forget some Russian words. But I've been showing a lot of Russian music to my friends because it's funny. It's hilarious. Music videos are very dark,
Yeah.
So I've been reminded a bit more.
I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are some Russian bands that have like sort of, gotten out into the rest of the world. But do you have like a?
People forget the tattoo. Remember all the things she said. They were like lesbian 15-year-olds. That was how they were PR'd, as these like schoolgirls that are in love with each other, but not really because it's illegal.
It's illegal, yeah.
And then they were translated into like 40 languages. They really boomed. And then
you mentioned that when we caught up for the first time, and like after that, I added it to my playlist in the car now. And like I was driving around with a friend the other day, and he was like, "Oh, tattoo, that's a throwback." And so I sort of gave the context of like, yeah.
I wonder what they're up to nowadays. But yeah, that was quite an inspiration.
Yeah, that is. I always find that so fascinating, the way that like society is so homophobic, but then like you look at Freddie Mercury as like one of the most beloved performers ever, and like I guess David Bowie had that kind of androgynous thing going on.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up Zemfira, which is a Russian super popular since I was a kid and continues to be very popular musician, very weird, very beautiful poetry. She's gay, clearly, and everybody knows about the actress that she's dating, but it's so, when I was talking to my dad about it, they're always asking me to come back home, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I can shave my armpits and I can have a man on my side, but like that's not going to really fix what I say. I don't really have a filter, And he was like, well, I have a friend, he's queer, he just works quietly. And I'm like, so you're basically asking me to get back in the closet while I'm back home. And I was trying to explain to him that for like 14 years living here, just realizing who I am, being out, not even knowing who the fuck I am. Because in Russia, I knew I could have like 7 husbands in my future, but I was never told that I could have 7 wives as well. I never even considered the fact that I could be with women while wanting to be with women,
Yeah. So they would be fine with you marrying 7 men.
Yeah, no, divorce is a whole thing, right?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you meant like all at once, not one after the other. I was like, that's pretty progressive.
Polyamory is also popular. My parents, I would call them quite progressive for where they're at, like quite lefties.
Yeah.
Probably,
It's funny how I remember Jim Jeffries, the comedian, was talking about how his parents, by Australian standards, are right wing, but by American standards, they would be left wing. And so,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
the line is never the same, is it? What was I going to say? It was something about the pop stars and the open secrets.
Yeah, there was that guy. Remember that guy, the Russian guy, really androgynous looking.
I'm going to be honest, I don't remember. I'm not sure what you're talking about there.
I'll send you the meme. I think you will know exactly what
okay,
I'm talking
you
about.
said that later on, and I'll check it out. So then what was, I mean, I suppose we sort of answered that question by talking about you felt like you couldn't sort of be yourself, but how did you decide to sort of leave for the kind of final time to move? Did you move straight here or did you go somewhere else first?
I traveled a bunch with with my English school. I went and lived in Scotland in Dundee for 2 months when I was 10.
Cool.
I traveled with my drawing school to like Paris, Berlin. My parents and I traveled to like Turkey, Egypt, a lot of places.
Yeah.
Quite a spoiled childhood, I gotta be honest. Until the
Sounds
crisis in 2007, it was brilliant. And then I went to study in uni in Russia. I wanted to study theater and film, but my parents were like, "No, fuck you. You're gonna study diplomacy." So international relations, which really helps a stripper in the future, to be honest. They kind of set me up. And I didn't do well. Some bad stuff happened in Russia, so I got kicked out of uni. I went home. I met a dude, and he was like, "I'm going to New Zealand." I was like, "Let's get engaged." We got engaged in like 1 month. I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And in about a year, I moved to Aotearoa. And then I moved here. I think I told you that, but I moved here on 18th of February 2011 to Christchurch. 4 days
Yes, you did mention. Yeah, you spent a bit of time here.
For the February earthquake. Yeah, and that was fucking traumatizing, but still better than Russia. Yeah.
We should put that on our PR posters as like it was still a step up from Russia even after the quake.
It was. It really was.
Oh wow.
And then we spent like a year together in Christchurch studying because I continued studying in CPA, finally film, post-production and stuff.
Cool.
And finally, But after I studied it, I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. I don't want to work with people. Yeah. And finding comedy was super helpful because I can still tell the stories I want to tell, but without depending on a crew, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Nikita and I didn't work out, obviously. We tried talking. We have been friends for a while because he's in Russia.
Yeah.
And we talked a few months ago and he was like, "No, we should close the borders and, armies should be stronger." And I was like, dude, do we not listen to the same music?
Yeah.
Are we not on the same page of like anti-war and all that kind of vibe? But
right.
Turns out the longer you stay in Russia,
Yeah, I guess it is an interesting phenomenon. I've been curious as to what will happen to myself as well, but they seem to say the older you get, the more conservative you get. But I think that is because the trend has been people have been doing better than their parents until recently.
My sister says that. My sister says that too. She's younger. She's 21, 22 this year.
Yeah.
She keeps being like, "Nah, the parents are too old to understand this stuff." And I'm like, dude, our parents is the age of my tattoo artist, okay? And he's capable of using they, thems, queer, trans people, all there, all understanding, brilliant person, So like, it's not the age. It's the willingness to learn them.
Definitely a rigidity in the mindset sort of problem. I noticed myself having a bit of a boomer moment the other day. Have you heard of these toys called Labubu?
No.
So they're like I think they're a sort of keychain. They're like a little monster, like a little character thing, and people. It's a bit like sneakerhead culture, but I think for young women predominantly, the ones who it's targeted towards, and they, you wait outside a store for a drop and you buy like they're called something like blind.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. You buy like a blind box and you don't know what it's going to be. And I heard this,
and the surprise. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I heard this podcast I was listening to yesterday. She waited in line for 3 hours to get one for her daughter. And then eventually they came out and said, "Oh no, we've run out of, stock or whatever." So everyone sort of left disappointed. And like, I was thinking to myself, is this like, because even the name to me is, what the hell is a Labubu? And like, I wonder if that's what it was like for my parents when we would come home from school and then be like, this is the new thing. your Pokemon, Digimon, whatever it was, and then just being like, oh God, what do I have to get you now? And so I just had this moment of empathy for parents.
That's fair. And I don't know if it's a boomer moment, though. An empathy moment doesn't sound like a boomer moment.
Also, I've softened that slightly. My mindset at the time was I was just picturing if I was the parent and being like, what do you fucking think you need this, you know what I mean? Like that was the kind of, I was picturing what I would think of like, that's dumb. You don't need it, whatever, but yeah, that's parenting, I think, isn't it? Is children want things and yeah.
I was always hoping that parents would remember themselves at the age of the kid. Like when I'm, 16, 17, having whatever the fuck, my parents would remember being 16, 17. But now I know that I don't remember. I remember being a fucking idiot, but like I don't remember my 20s very much, stripping for a decade. What a job, what a career.
Yeah.
So but at the same time, if we go a bit darker, like I've been chatting to my mom about childhood, right? And she was like, oh, all you remember is just being beaten up by us. And I was like, well, yeah, And she's like, oh, I needed help. I'm like, no, dude, you needed to like have a partner that loves you, And the way I explained it to her was like, I spent my 20s drinking and doing drugs, and never have I ever felt like just hitting a child, I also have anger issues, but never have I felt like, or a cat or anything, So I hope they're changing, but they also refuse to kind of sit in the whole like, she's like, no, we didn't. I'm like, yes, you did. You drank. I didn't. I remember,
Right. It is interesting. I've had similar chats with my parents where we've mentioned stuff and they've said something similar of like, you only remember the negative stuff. And you're like, well, yeah, that's the stuff that imprints on you as like fear and, whatever it is,
why do I have a tick, man? What do you think?
And just like traumatic stuff from school or whatever, where your parents are like, why are you still hung on to that? And it's like, because that really ruined my year. Like, I don't know why I would just sort of, I don't know. I was going to say though, the one thing I do remember from being younger is like stuff that it seemed like it was catastrophic and it was the end of the world when it's a relationship breaking up or it's, whatever it is. And it's so funny because when this is why I've grown a little bit of empathy for like, when you see a toddler like crashing out in public and you're like, come on, it's not, you don't get the juice box or whatever it is that you wanted, like whatever. But then, I guess the older you get, our tolerance to dealing with like, I don't want to say not just disappointment, but our tolerance for like how bad we think I can't even articulate. It's like how bad we think the consequences of this thing is going to be. Sort of, I don't know.
People still do that though. It doesn't matter that like some.
That's a good point.
I can see like a lot of like I made a few new friends last year. I let go of a few old friends that were feeling toxic, and actually life got better. And I made a few people that feel very right for my life. Like, yeah, we're on the same page. But because they're new friends, I'm like for a year or so, right? I'm noticing that like, oh, my girlfriend like spirals out, like she overthinks a lot. And I end up giving this like sweet pep talks of like, girl, what do you even on about? Kind of vibe, because we tend to do that as well. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, at least I don't do that. And then I just spiral the fuck out. So it happens to everyone. We just need to have, I don't know, a company to call us out and be like, yo, it's not the end of the world. It's just a job. It's just there's 8 billion people. It's just a relationship, So
that's right.
Well, not just, but it can be.
I guess it is relative though, because when you're a teenager, something, I guess if your world is this big, like it's like something that doesn't seem that significant could be quite a big deal. But I just noticed we've got 5 minutes left in the Zoom, so let's get some of your plugs in here. So you've got, obviously there's Drug of Choice. Is it Drug of Choice Comedy? Is that the full name?
Drug of Choice Productions, yeah.
There you go. I'll chuck the link for that in the description. What other projects or things would you like to talk about that you've got coming up?
Oh, I'm looking for so we have the Fuss running for 12th of July, and we're going to do it twice more this year because it's going to be like 4 times a year because that's kind of affordable and doable so far until we open our own burlesque club, whatever. And
very cool.
The rules change, hopefully. We have 3 Minutes in Hell, which is a show where we have 15 up to 20 comics do 3 minutes on a set topic that we give them. Or nowadays we changed it a little bit, and sometimes we have a third Tuesday in a month. So we do comedians mass debate each other.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it one more time: mass debate each other.
Nice.
So we give them. We haven't given. Last time we did it, we didn't give anybody topics. They decided on their own, like whose mom's gonna win in a fight, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that was hilarious.
Like benign topics.
Yeah, whatever the fuck they want, to be honest. Would you rather be a slave or a soul? You know what I'm thinking for the next one. With my friend Emma Jean, I want to give her a shout out. She runs
Shout out to Emma Jean.
Flesh of Genius Productions. She's fantastic.
Oh, that's her. I get ads for them. Yes.
Yes, Emma Jean. She's brilliant. Love that. Yeah, she's in England at the wedding right now, and all my heart goes to her at this point because she's surrounded by family.
Yes, indeed.
So yeah, she runs a bunch of good comedy that we're trying to collaborate a bit more. So go watch her stuff as well. We're gonna run the tattoo gig with her where comedians get tattooed and tell the stories of why they're getting a tattoo like that. I'm gonna do a red flag right here.
Nice.
So I can show my girlfriends when they introduce people to me. I'll be like,
oh, so you can just hold the hand up, yeah.
Well, what are you doing? You know.
Yeah.
So we have that 3 Minutes in Hell mass debates. I'm headlining like Saturday Night Laughs on 19th of July, and I'm headlining in Petone.
Nice.
On 19th of June.
Is that the abandoned tap room or something it's called?
Yes, it's a fucking great place.
Cool,
that's where love that place. Yeah.
Are you on with El Jaguar, I think?
I think so. I don't know them, but yeah, I think they're emceeing.
Yes. No, Jaguar's, great. He might be a little bit curt, a little bit cold, but he's a pro's pro, so you should be fine, yeah. Is he the host?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. He'll be great as the host. He's that dude.
I was happy to be given a headline spot. But
I was stoked when I saw the poster. I was like, hell yeah, we're started at the bottom, now we're here. That wasn't a Kanye line, was it?
I hope
it was Drake.
It was. I was talking about Kanye yesterday with someone, so I think it was. I'm not a rap fan. I'm a metal girl, but
Yeah, me neither. Well, hey, that is going to be the interview. So thank you once again for joining me. I'm sure we'll see you in some form or another pop up on the podcast. I think we're gonna try and book in a sort of Christchurch trip for you. I know Pip from Good Times is keen to make that happen. But yeah,
also
thank you for joining me.
On that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have a good day.
Oh, hang on. I don't want to end the meeting. Shit. Fuck.
Yeah, you tell me what you do now.
Thank you for listening to Ruddle Me This. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. You can find me on social media at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the major platforms. You can also join patreon.com/Taylor Ruddle Comedy for free, which gets you access to all sorts of extras and behind the scenes content, as well as allows you to communicate directly with me and let me know what you think of the show. Tune in again next Monday for another episode of Ruddle Me This, and until then, Ruddle her out.
This has been a Tape Deck Media production. Thank you for listening.
Hey Ruddlers, I joined a group of podcasters that we are calling the Trailer Alliance, a group of podcasters that share each other's trailers at the end of the episodes and generally support each other. So at the end of each episode for the next few weeks, I'm going to be playing a trailer of one of the members of the Trailer Alliance. And here's one of them now. I hope you like it.
What's up, everyone? This is JJ. Listen, I'm always wanting to try to engage with you all, but some of you are still so shy. Please don't be shy. I'm not going to bite. Hit me up on IG, lifepodcast_84. However, if you don't want to hit me on IG, you want to hit me through email, that's fine. You can hit me at thisisthelifepodcast84@gmail.com. Again, thisisthelifepodcast84@gmail.com. IG, Instagram, hit me, lifepodcast_84. Come on, y'all. Let's be live. Let's be active. Love.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.